What's going on, everybody? Today I will be giving my way too early 2024 Big 12 predictions. This conference will definitely be a bit more difficult to rank these teams in because the Big 12 has a bunch of solid teams but no elite teams, and I legitimately think that there are at least 6 teams who could realistically win the Big 12 in 2024. And this conference is really open for anybody to win it and get a spot in the 12-team playoffs. And with the expansion of the Big 12 and the departure of Texas and Oklahoma, it will be very interesting to see some of the matchups we will have next season, and I cannot wait. But before I do get into ranking these teams, make sure you guys like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's get into ranking these teams. And let's start off at the bottom, and I do have Cincinnati at 16. Cincinnati was very bad this past season, and I do expect them to be near the bottom of this conference. They just don't have a lot of upside on their team, but if they want to have a better season than 3-9, they will need to have returning running back Brendan Sorsby step up for this team, and we are going to need to see that rushing attack be dangerous in 2024. But this team really lacks the talent, and I expect them to finish last in the Big 12. But at number 15, I have Houston. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish higher because they do have some positives going forward. They're basically in rebuild mode and they have their quarterback returning, but they also have a decent head coach who will be a second-year head coach next season. But they have also managed to do all right in the transfer portal and pick up a couple guys who could help out the team. But they also lost some of their top players, and they might be better down the line, but I do not expect them to be that good next year because there's a lot of holes in this team, including at the line of scrimmage, which is one of their biggest weaknesses. But at number 14, I have Baylor. Baylor is coming off a pretty terrible season, and their defense was last in the Big 12, and they just weren't good at all. We could see improvement from this team next year. They've made some coaching staff changes, but also picked up a new quarterback out of the transfer portal. So we'll see what Baylor can do, but realistically, I can't put them any higher than 14 because they have a lot of work to do. But at number 13, I have BYU. BYU really had a decent start to this past season, but they were pretty bad in conference play, and they finished 5-7, and they are another Big 12 team with a lot of work to do. They have a lot of improving to do on the offensive side and also on the defensive side, and they don't really have that many positives going forward for them, and I expect them to be average at best. But for my next 12 teams I'm about to rank, I'd say they all have legitimate chances to make an impact in the Big 12, and the Big 12 really has a bunch of teams with talent, but no elite teams. But we got some teams heading in the right direction, and at number 12 I have Arizona State. This is definitely a team heading in the right direction. Kenny Dillingham is doing really good work at Arizona State, and he's bringing in recruits and transfers, and I could see them being good in a couple years. But it's still too early to put them any higher than number 12. They only finished 3-9 last season, but injuries really hurt them, and they had a first-year head coach. But they have key guys on offense returning, including receiver Elijah Badger. They've also managed to bring in the third-best transfer portal group in the Big 12, and brought in 22 players. And I really do like the direction this team is heading, but they still are not quite ready to compete at the top of the Big 12, and that's why they are only number 12. But at number 11, I have UCF, and they are also a team with a bright future going forward, and they could honestly be higher than 11. And like I said, the Big 12 is really open, and we could see a team expected to finish 5-7, possibly finish 9-3 or 10-2. I really think this conference will be unpredictable, but UCF has brought in the third best recruiting class in the Big 12. But they also have brought in a quarterback who could possibly make an impact in KJ Jefferson. I expect this offense to be good, and they got guys returning and a lot of positives going forward. This is definitely a dark horse in the Big 12, and they are an interesting team to watch out for. But at number 10, I have Iowa State, and I really wanted to rank this team higher. They have a pretty solid defense and got offensive guys returning, but I do actually think the teams above them will be better. And they haven't made any offseason additions to the team, and I expect them to be kind of the same team they were this season. But maybe they will be better, but I think the teams above them have a lot more upside going forward. And at number 9, I do have TCU. I expect TCU to have a bit of a rebound with Sonny Dykes leading the way. He has shown abilities as a head coach after leading them to a national championship just 2 seasons ago, and he's definitely a good head coach. I think this team will get back on track, and they've been really active in the transfer portal. I don't think they will be a 12-team playoff contender yet or anything crazy, but they should be a solid 7-5, maybe 8-14, depending on how tough their schedule is, which I honestly haven't looked at yet. But I will be starting my schedule predictions in February, but like I said, these predictions are way too early, and by the time it's preseason, we will have more information on these teams, and I will do these predictions again. But for now, I have TCU at number 9, and I expect somewhat of a turnaround from this team. But at number 8, I have Texas Tech, and this team has dominated the Big 12 in recruiting, and they have a very bright future. Nobody really comes close to them in recruiting rankings in the Big 12, but they also picked up a very underrated wide receiver in the transfer portal, wide receiver Josh Kelly from Washington State, who will really play an impact. This offense has a chance to be one of the most dangerous offenses in the Big 12 next season, with the talent that they're returning and the talent that they're also bringing in. They had a letdown this past season. Everyone thought they were going to be at the top of the Big 12, but they ended up finishing 7-6. But I think this team is still heading in the right direction. They also brought in a 5-star receiver, Micah Hudson, in their recruiting class, and he could possibly start right away, but we'll see. But at number 7, I have Colorado. Look, I know nobody wants to hear about the hype train of 4-8 Colorado, the most overhyped 4-8 college football team ever, no doubt about it, but I think they will be fine in the Big 12. If you look at what they did this season, they actually beat TCU and competed with ranked Arizona and ranked Oregon State, and they competed with Utah. All of those games were one-possession scores. I think Colorado has potential to finish 7-5 or even 8-4. They have one of the best transfer portal classes, not just in the Big 12, but in the country, and they happen to pick up the highest rated offensive tackle in the transfer portal, and they have big impact players returning next year like Travis Hunter and Shadir Sanders. And the biggest weakness on this team was the line of scrimmage play on offense and defense, and their defense was also weak in the secondary. But they have been focusing on the main focal point this offseason, beefing up the line of scrimmage, and they have brought in 6 4-stars on the team, and the competition will get easier next year. And I honestly don't see a world where Colorado ends up winning less than 6 games. They are going to get better, and the competition is going to get easier, and I'm just trying to be realistic, and I expect them to win games next year, and it will be a new season anyways, but we'll see if Colorado gets overhyped again. But for these top 6 teams, I'd say all of these teams can legitimately win the Big 12. I still think Colorado is a step behind these teams. Maybe Colorado can shock people, but at number 6, I have West Virginia. West Virginia had a really good season in 2023, and nobody really talks about them that much, but they finished 9-4 and over-exceeded expectations. The defense is still a concern, but that's why I only have them at 6. But after a 9-4 season, it's only right to have them near the top of the Big 12 next year, because they have talent returning, and they should be a legit contender in the Big 12, and they finished the season with an impressive bowl win. But at number 5, I have Kansas. This team could honestly win the Big 12 next year. They have a really good quarterback returning from injury whose name is Jalen Daniels. This team is trending in the perfect direction, and I have a lot of players returning. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme. There's a lot of Big 12 teams with a lot of guys returning and a lot of teams with bright futures in the Big 12. And Kansas is definitely one of those teams. And they could possibly compete for the Big 12 championship. But at number 4, I have Oklahoma State. They have probably the best running back in the whole country, returning in Ollie Gordon, and they also have quarterback Alan Bowman returning, and they will be one of those top contenders in the Big 12. The defense is still a concern, and that's why I only have them at 4. But we could always see improvement from the defense next season, and I think Mike Gundy is doing a fantastic job at Oklahoma State, so this team should be taken seriously, even after their blowout loss to Texas in the Big 12 championship game. But at number 3, I actually have Utah, and I know some people actually have them winning the Big 12, and I still think they will be a top contender, definitely with Cam Rising back, and with a defense that has been consistently good over the years. But Utah was really destroyed with injuries in 2023, and it held them back, and ultimately it led to a pretty average season where they lost to Northwestern in their bowl game, and it will be a sigh of relief to have everybody back, and to have Cam Rising back, and Cam Rising should definitely play a factor, but there's still a concern about how rusty Cam Rising will be, and I personally think that might hold Utah back a little bit. I personally do not think Utah will make the Big 12 championship game next year, but it is still way too early. But at number 2, I have Kansas State, another team who could realistically win the Big 12 in 2024, and they could possibly make the playoffs. They were one of the more underrated teams this season, and their defense was very solid. They have a lot of top stars returning on offense, but they also have some holes to fill on defense. But Kansas State was a team that almost beat Texas this past season, and they are just all around a very solid team, and I expect them to be very good. Definitely with quarterback Avery Johnson leading the way and a pretty good offensive line. I feel like I know what to expect from Kansas State. All the talent is there, and they should be better than Utah. But Utah has a quarterback that has been out for a very long time returning, and the offense really struggled this past season, but they also lost a lot on defense. Utah could end up winning the Big 12, but personally, I think Kansas State will have the edge over Utah. But the team who I actually think will win the Big 12 is actually Arizona, and I have them at number 1. And I know they just lost their head coach, but as the time of this video is being made, they still have all their top guys returning. I know they lost a couple players, but nothing that will really hurt them. And even with the departure of Jedd Fisch, I think this Arizona team is still loaded with talent, and they will be fine. And they will be a step ahead of the other teams in the Big 12. Arizona has so many young guys on that team, and they will only get better. Quarterback Noah Fifita is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country, and he's already an early Heisman contender only heading into his sophomore season. Now, if Arizona has a bunch of talent departure to Washington or any other school, then I will reconsider having Arizona winning the Big 12. But as of now, they have still kept basically all their top players, even after losing their head coach. And I'm still really high on this team to win the Big 12. But this is still way too early, and we will be doing these predictions again in the preseason. But you guys let me know down in the comments below what your Big 12 power rankings look like. But anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. But that's going to do it, guys, and peace out.